These people lost their lives, they lost their jobs. And for the people who are already struggling to hold on, thanks to these lockdowns and the psychopaths who support them in these big cities, destroying the economy and destroying their lives, the bottom, who were barely making it by, lost everything, found themselves homeless.
In this video, Tim Pool takes issue with a tweet from Kyle Kulinski about the homelessness crisis in America. Tim Pool gets understandably upset at how the virtue-signaling Kyle Kulinski thinks that throwing money at the problem is a solution. With that, let's watch Tim Pool shred woke lunatic Kyle Kulinski.
And we saw family restaurants go out of business. These people lost their lives, they lost their jobs. And for the people who are already struggling to hold on, thanks to these lockdowns and the psychopaths who support them in these big cities, destroying the economy and destroying their lives, the bottom, who were barely making it by, lost everything, found themselves homeless. Several interviews popped up. There was a couple living in a camp in California. They had tents, and they said exactly this. I was making very little, working at a gas station. I couldn't afford to pay my rent. When the lockdowns happened, I lost my job. I could not sustain myself. The money, the stimulus, none of it was enough. I lost my place. I can't live anywhere. Now they're homeless. What's your solution? Pump more government garbage into this? It's not solving the problem. No, I can say, if you're talking about the very rare circumstance where a hardworking man or woman loses their job, can't pay their rent, and becomes homeless, those people are pulled out in a week or two because the system is designed to help the people who seek to be helped. I was homeless. I got it really quickly. I never went to a shelter. Figured it out. And it's not easy. And I got to tell you, one of the things that really bothers me about people, let me tell you about people. One thing I found when, because that was a period of months where I didn't have a place to live. I'd sleep in my car, and I'd have cops yell at me and bang my window saying, you can't sleep in your car. I was lucky enough to have a car. Car ultimately got repossessed, by the way. And I'd love to find it, by the way, but I don't think I ever will. I think it was a 2002 blue Dodge Neon. And it got repoed. I'd be parked on the side of the road, and I'd be in my work uniform, and I'd go to sleep. And I'd wake up, and I had one instance where a cop was putting a ticket on the car. And he said, I can't park here. And I'm like, no.
I had to fast forward a bit in Tim Pool's video to, kind of get to the point where he's making his point about Kyle Kulinski and kind of his thoughts on the homelessness issue. But as I'm talking or as the video's going, try to at least get the context of the tweet that Kyle Kulinski put out. This tweet is a microcosm of leftist thinking that I vehemently disagree with. Any social ill, any problem, they believe you can throw money at it and it's fixed. He says on here 20 to 30 billion, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, to end homelessness. Okay, so once you've put that money into whatever programs you think are going to solve homelessness, what happens when that money dries up? Do you think because you sunk 20 or 30 billion dollars into this problem, that at the end of that, all of these people will be employed, no one will be on drugs, no one will have mental issues, no one will just have the attitude, hey, I don't feel like working. I don't understand how anybody can be serious by saying if we throw X number of dollars at a problem, it will be over. It makes no sense. The one thing that I do agree with in Kyle Kulinski's tweet, and that's very hard for me to say, is point number 2 there. California is full of grifter con artists profiting off homelessness and stealing the money. Something these idiots would admit if it wasn't for their pathetic Elon. Okay, I don't know what the Elon boot-licking thing is. I genuinely don't. I don't know what his big issue with Elon Musk is. But the first sentence, there are these NGOs out there that California will take the money that they're supposed to solve homelessness with and give it to these NGOs. And the NGOs will just funnel it to their executives that are making, mid 6 figures. And there's not just one, there's multiple of them. So the money that California is supposedly putting towards homelessness, I don't know what percentage, but a lot of it doesn't get where it needs to go. Last thing I'll say before I get back to the video. When I lived in California, you may have heard me mention this before, specifically when I lived in San Francisco, I remember they had a ton of money they were throwing at the homelessness problem. And their idea, you've probably heard about this, was to throw money at a needle exchange and packaged crack pipes, like clean crack pipes. So the message was like, yeah, you can do drugs, but do it safely. Do you think that had any effect on the homelessness problem? I haven't looked at a single statistic, but I am fully confident telling you it did not. So it's not just the NGOs, which are a huge problem, but California specifically puts money into programs that are laughable. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
No, I can park. He's like, well, whatever. And I was like, I pulled over because I was tired and I didn't want to fall asleep while driving. He says, I don't care. Now I have a ticket I can't pay and I can't afford rent. How fun is that? Yeah, maybe if I worked 80 hours a week, which was hard to do because you had to pick up shifts, but I would work overtime and I still struggle to make ends meet. Life is not easy in this country, but I made it through. I figured it out. One thing that really bothered me is that a lot of people have no problem. Not everybody wants you to sleep at their house, don't get me wrong. I never really cared. If I had friends over, about couch is all yours, buddy. Literally don't care. The more the merrier. I had friends that would have parties. Everybody would crash at their house. But the moment they found out that I lost my apartment, they were like, hey, man, you really can't sleep here. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about, dude? Like, everybody spent the night on Saturday night. We were all hanging out having pizza and beers. Why are you mad at me? It's this weird psychological thing. So I empathize with so many of these people who are homeless, who are actually homeless. And I said, I want to help these people because I know what it's like. Now, for the most part, I only ever slept outside like once or twice. That was brutal. But I did live in my car. And it sucked. It's uncomfortable. And then I have to wake up. Eventually, I had some buddies at work. They were like, hey, just sleep in the pilot's lounge. What I would do is I would set up my work schedule so that I would pick up a night shift and a morning shift. So that way, if they ever got mad at me for sleeping at the airport, I'd be like, yeah, but I got to be here at 5:30. My shift wrapped at 11, and I can't drive 2 hours home. And they would go, all right, well, just don't do it again. And they had showers there, too. How fun was that, living in the airport? Fortunately, one of the guys I worked with was a nice guy, and he was like, I got a room in my basement. It's all yours. And he never asked for rent. Boy, was I lucky. You know why? Because there's good people out there. Rest in peace, dude. Dude's not around anymore. Because there are good people.
I respect Tim for kind of talking about the fact that, he went through a rough period where he didn't have a place to live. And what's really touching, I think, is the story he just told about a buddy who, when everybody else was like, dude, you can't stay here. You don't have a home. He had a buddy who said, hey, man, here's my basement. Here's a room. Take it. It's yours. I don't know what you all think out there. I think a lot of people are pessimistic these days with all the quote unquote divisiveness in the country, but I think most people are really, really good people. And stories like this remind me of that. Even our Democrat voting friends, I think many of them, their heart is in the right place, but they're being misled. And I'm sure they'd say the same thing about the right wing, but I feel very confident in saying that. I don't think the voters are bad people. I think the party leaders, the politicians, the elitist, liberal, mainstream news media, those people are the evil ones. So even our Democrat friends, there are really good people in there as well. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
People out there who know that it's a struggle. And I know Kyle feels that empathy. I can respect that. But what bothers me is the arrogance and the ignorance that causes the problem to become worse. The policy of these Democrats in these cities. In California, where I agree with you, it's grifters and con artists. But when you come out and say Elon Musk could liquidate assets he has no access to and then dump money in a problem which will in no way solve this, I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it, man. Okay? Stop being so high and mighty and stop being so arrogant when there are many of us who have tried really hard to actually figure out how we could solve that problem. And you know what I learned? I learned money doesn't solve it. And I was really dismayed because, when I was young, this is a long time ago, by the way, and I saw this problem, I thought, just like he did probably, I was like, a lot of these people might have been like me. It's hard to make enough money. Even if you're a hardworking guy, and I grind to the bone. And then I learned the harsh truth. Walking around the streets of Chicago, what did I find? Oh, man. A lot of these homeless people that, like me and my friends, might bring food to them. I remember we would give.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
food to the homeless all the time. We don't assume homeless people are hungry, and I would always mock people for that. They say, feed the homeless. I'm like, why? They're homeless, not starving. I learned a lot of these guys, a lot of these young people would tell us outright, this is their choice. And that's when I said, I don't think the problem is what we think it is. The problem is people who choose to be homeless and people who want to do drugs and don't want to work. Sad reality. To the people who find themselves desperate and homeless, I feel for them. And those people are easily helped. That's the truth. But this crisis in this country of mass homelessness, it's not people who are like, man, I'm down on my luck. It just isn't. It's mental illness, which those people need help. Maybe we do need mental institutions. There are people who are just, they don't want to work. And they know if the handout exists, they'll take it. So my dude, I will apologize for being so angry on this one, but it's just so frustrating to see this angry arrogance to call people like, when End Wokeness rightly calls you out. And then to say that we don't give an F and that there's conservative-ish posters who are rather simp for Elon. Bro, you need to step back and learn your place. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at coming up at 8 p.m., youtube.com/.
I guess I'll just end with this thought. Life is really tough for everybody. We could go through all the various things that can just slap you in the face out of nowhere, and you can respond by giving up, or you can respond by getting back on the horse and getting after it and saying nothing's going to stop me. But I believe that someone like Tim Pool that went through the challenging time that he just described made him appreciate what he has now more and view that homeless guy on the corner asking for money in a different light. But we want to hear from you. And here's my question, and I don't know if there's an answer or if anybody will even weigh in on this, but I think what Tim's pointing out is, how do you get aid to people that really need it and will benefit from it and have a strong likelihood of turning their life around, versus the people Tim was describing that are just like, I just don't want to work. And they know that there's a robust safety net in the United States, no matter what the left will tell you, that they can access. So I don't know the answer. I don't know how to differentiate those people. But I guess just let us know your thoughts on the homelessness issue and mistakes that have been made, solutions. I can sit here and complain about the homelessness issue, and I know when policies are dumb, like spending money on crack pipes, but I don't necessarily have the answer, so I'd love to hear what you all have to say. Anyway, that's it for this video. As always, we really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.